doctor is making that as a recommendation. We're talking about a combination now of clinical and medical, and chances are that the outcomes are a lot better.
Mm. Well, here's what I'll say too. The one thing that I find interesting about one of the statistics that you said about young women, about how it's basically doubled or it's risen tremendously between 2007 and 2017, is if you look at those years, it actually coincides with when social media came into play. Now, Instagram dropped in 2010, but Facebook and MySpace dropped in 2005. And you have to remember also that now, especially with now we're talking about teenagers and middle schoolers. When I was growing, or I'm not going to say was growing up, I guess I'm still growing up, but I'm a little bit into adulthood now. But when I was younger, I didn't get into the social media scene until I was maybe a freshman in high school, because that's when everybody started getting into it. That's when Instagram had just dropped, basically, and everybody started to join. These teenagers are growing up in the age of social media. They've been exposed to social media since they were a lot younger. And a big part of social media is status based on numbers. People are liking you, rating you. How many followers does she have on Instagram? Oh, this picture's so cute. And people are internet bold. They'll trash you on the internet just as well as they praise you on the internet. So a lot of these girls, you're already going through it as a teenager because your body's changing, your attitude's changing, a lot of things are changing. And then on top of that, you have to worry about posting pictures, and people that you see outside of school, people that you see in school are now outside of school, and they now have the platform to keep saying things about you and to keep commenting on you. And if they are tormenting you or bullying you, they can now take it outside of the classroom constantly. So yes. I know for a fact that is one of the major causes with these women and these suicide rates. I'm not going to say that that's the cause, but I know for sure that has something to do with it. Now, my second question is, I don't know if this is just a general observation that I've made or if this is statistically proven, but it seems like mental health has, I'm not going to say has been glamorized, but it's been a little bit more normalized within the last couple of years when it comes to depression and anxiety, especially because I know for years and years and years people have been dealing with problems when it comes to depression and anxiety, but it just seems like within the last couple of years people have really been tuning into it, I'm depressed or I'm anxious, and it just seems to me that it's a lot more common. So is this just a general consciousness that is now being treated? Like, is it that more people are comfortable with coming out that they feel this way and more people are speaking out about it? Or do you think that more people, tapping into those feelings is kind of contributing to it being problematic rather than it being helpful? Because I know for a fact, I've seen teenagers tell their parents, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, but because everybody says I'm depressed, I'm anxious nowadays, a lot of parents are like, okay, no, you're a teenager, you're just going through some things right now. But some of these teenagers really mean it. So how is that dynamic? How have you seen that dynamic? And if so, how does that contribute to the problem, if you will?
Yes, a lot of times we are at the end of a crisis. And by that I mean the crisis has existed in a 15-year-old since they were 12. And they're just now coming to the realization after some traumatic event or some drama, the parents are saying, okay, now something's wrong. And so if you look at some of the folks who don't make it to us, those are some of the numbers of people who have contemplated or completed a suicide attempt.
Mm.
And the concern that we have is that it's further masked by some of the medications that the children take. And I'm talking children who were assessed when they were 5, 6, 7, because there is another age group that we need to be concerned about, and that's between 5 and 12 years old. And their numbers are rising now. But it's often they don't get the kind of recognition for their disease state until they're much older, and at that point, it's almost too late. So yes,
you're saying that you've actually got cases of 5-year-olds committing suicide?
I'm talking national statistics at this point.
Okay.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing. Now you can begin to look at let's see the 5 to 12-year-old range is more related to developmental issues or possible lack of a family network, social network, or cultural activities. With the introduction of social media, there's a whole lot more isolation, not as much neighborhood play, and kids are more socially in their own vacuum or silo, if you will. All right. So that's for that age group. From 12 to 14, we're talking about the development. And when you start talking the developmental stages, this is when the children, and I mean males and females, are tending to pull away from the protection that mom and dad has provided for them. So they're more out on their own amongst their friends and trying to figure things out in that age group. That's when you get all of these reports of bullying, especially at the high school, the middle school and high school levels. And that exacerbates a lot of the depression that some of the children are already not dealing with. So I think that in reference to your question, Ms. Ambezi, I think that there are instances where people are not taking the mental health signs and symptoms seriously. I think that we're becoming, this is my own personal thought, we're becoming a society that's immune to some of the signs and symptoms because we're seeing them so frequently.
Right.
Wow. So a lot of us, I guess, too, is incumbent upon parents. This becomes the next conversation that has to be had. It used to be, when we were growing up, sex was the conversation that no one wanted to touch or talk about. But, it seems like now this whole idea, it's like people don't want to utter it. The parents don't want to say anything because they don't want to put the thought out there. But the fact of the matter is, and based on statistics and things like this, especially in light of what Ambezi was saying in terms of, the onset of social media and how, pervasive it is, that they're having these thoughts anyway. These conversations are happening. They've got TV shows around the idea. They've got, and I see it in college age students coming in and having worked in higher education, that students, are dealing with some tremendous issues or feel they have nowhere to turn or feel they won't be accepted for whatever reason. But the fact of the matter is these conversations have to be had. Parents have to insert themselves into their children's lives and try to get a handle on this.
And especially now, one of the things you mentioned, Bad, is that it's being glamorized. There are television shows that are geared towards these children that they watch.
Yes.
And they actually glamorize suicide as something that is acceptable. And I think with the two-parent working and just the latchkey children that we have today, or society that we have today, there's no one monitoring that. And so that a lot of their thoughts come like this. This isn't that bad. It wouldn't be that bad if I can't. I might as well go and see what's on the other side. That kind of thinking is where they're at, and so I think that it does require the parents. And again, I agree with you. The parents to get involved in this, and there are ways to have them begin to understand the need to do that, and that might be another show. You're correct.
I wanted to talk about that as well, because one of the main TV shows that everybody's talking about, actually, we're right on time, because I have this article here.
I'll hit it after the break. Or you want to?
Yeah, let's hit it after the break. Let's come back to this after the break, because there is a TV show that is actually a #1 show on Netflix that we should talk about, because it actually deals with suicide. So let's talk about that after the break.
You're listening to Straight No Chaser. We'll be right back.
What do you wish for? A nice life? Nice things? Or do you wish for something more? A sense of purpose? Do you wish to discover a cure? To write code that cracks an unsolvable question? To further our exploration into space? Or to invent something that changes everything right here on Earth? Well, if that's your wish, make yourself ready. Because when you look back, you'll see that you didn't just make wishes, you realized them.
The path to happiness is not the easy one, but taking drugs will not make it easier. Many people got lost and end up losing their life to drugs. If you or anyone that you know is within that path, don't be afraid to seek for help. Visit www.adk.gov.my for information related to drug abuse. So, know your path. This message is brought to you by the National Anti-Drugs Agency.
Imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read. 'Cause every kid across the nation deserves a book to read, and we can make it happen right now. No, I don't know what you've been told, but kids with books learn so much more. So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child. So let's join hands, book people unite, unearth hidden passion. Tomorrow have a good time. Seeds of inspiration to motivate some magic. To change the writing on the wall. Writing on the wall. Can make a difference. One book inspires.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
Where I wanted to quit, in the back of my mind, I told myself I have to quit. And just that day when I reached for that cigarette, I'll never forget it, with my son looking at me. And it was like a bolt of lightning hit me, where I finally realized the big picture of what year after year and cigarette after cigarette had done. And I said, that's it. I'm done. I quit. Took him a whole pack, brand new pack. Took him, threw him out the window. And I don't litter, but that's it. I'm done.